All right, guys, we are live. So, welcome to this week's live training. And it is going to be all about leadership and building your dream team. Okay, this is super exciting because this is something that I'm obviously really passionate about. And it took me a while. So, in this training this week, I'm going to be just cluing you in on some of the mistakes that I made. Okay. And it took me a while to have the dream team and have the team that I have now that gives me the freedom that I really enjoy. And it allows me to do honestly whatever I want to do when I want to do it. And I do have to still lead that team. Everybody needs leaders, okay? But it's much, much easier than it's ever been in the past for me. So this week, we're going to go into how to change your existing team if they are not the team that you think is a dream team, how to change them into that dream team. And a lot of that has to do with leadership, right? There are typically, very, very seldomly are there bad teams, right? Typically, it's just a bad leader, okay? Because the probability of every single person on your team being unqualified or not good at their role is very, very low. That probability is low, right? It is most likely the person leading them that cannot pull out what they need or inspire them to take the right action to get the result that you're looking for as a company. And I'm going to show you how I went from having a team that was underperforming. And my mindset behind it was, hey, these guys aren't the right fit for my company. That was the mindset I had, to shifting it and pivoting it towards, maybe I'm not the leader that they need, or I'm not showing up as the leader that I need to be to inspire them to make the action or take the action that I need for my company. Okay, so that is what I am going to be going through with you guys. And I hope that you can take some nuggets and apply this to your gym so you get a little bit of action out of your team and follow some best practices and make some of the transformations that I have. So I wrote down some things because it is going to be a little bit long-winded, not necessarily a longer video, but I'm going to cover a lot of stuff quick because team building and leadership can go deep, right? There's tons of books and all sorts of stuff on it. I'm just going to highlight the top things that made the biggest impact for me. All right. So the first thing I want to talk about is people and processes. Okay. So in every business, whether it's a gym business, a service-based business, a product-based business, whatever it may be, there's always, it boils down to two things, right? People and processes, right? So last week in our training, we talked about systems, right? Processes. Systems is just another name for processes. And do you have the right processes, right? And so that's really important for you to identify, because if you don't have the right processes, it doesn't matter what kind of team you have, they're all going to not be successful because the process itself is not successful, right? So hopefully you watched last week's training. If you didn't, after this week, go watch it. And it talks all about systems. And I help guide you through the correct way to do things so you have the right processes. Now, once we've identified, yes, I really do believe we have the right processes. And a good way for you to know is when you do it as the owner, are you successful? Right? Are you successful with that process, and are you consistently successful doing it? So whatever it may be, it could be your sales process, it could be your customer acquisition process, it could be your fulfillment, so how you train, all of those are processes. Are you always successful every single time as the owner, right? And is it reasonable to expect one of your staff members to be able to follow that process, right? So if you are an absolute savage at sales and you close 90%, is it reasonable for you to expect that of the next person? So give them some reasonable expectations. Usually people can't sell as good as sorry, I had a trainer coming in here, so I lost my train of thought. Usually they can't sell as good as the person that would be the owner of the business, right? So let's bring it to something reasonable. But let's say you identify it as a good process. Now all that's left is people, right? Can you find the right people to then execute those processes. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is how to assign the right people and how to make sure you have the right people and you coach them to be the right people and then assign those to the processes. Okay, so that's what we're going to spend a lot of time talking about today. And we're going to talk about hiring the right people or setting expectations for your existing staff members that you have. Okay, we're going to talk about both of those things. So let's start with let's say you want to change your existing staff, because it's much more doable to coach your existing staff to become the right people than it is to completely hire a brand new staff of the right people, right? So let's say you have a staff that is maybe underperforming and you want to introduce them to some of the things that you need them to accomplish for you to hit your business goals and get your freedom. Okay, let's start there. Sorry, I'm gonna jump on my phone really quick to see if if there's any comments in this video, because I am not currently. There we go. Okay, so if you guys have any questions or comments, please drop them in the video. Now I have the chat up and I can answer them real time for you. But let's say you want to change your existing staff to be your dream team. How do you do that? What are some tactical steps that you can take? Well, that's what we're gonna go into now, okay? So the first thing you really want to have identified is, number one, the mission. What is your mission as a company? Okay, so like as an example, Body by Design, my mission is I want to help individuals in my local community become the best version of themselves through healthy living, through fitness, through nutrition, through life coaching, through the correct mindset. Why? Because I went through that transformation myself and it completely changed my life. And we only have one life to live, guys. So if you're not living life to the fullest, it really sucks, right? And especially if you weren't, and then you went to living life to the fullest, you know how amazing that is. Why wouldn't you want to share that with somebody else? Why wouldn't you want to create a business around that, right? And I love fitness, so fitness is the cornerstone of my transformation center, but why wouldn't you want to share that? So you need to have like-minded individuals on your team that share that same mission, okay? So that's number one. You want to introduce that to your team, right? And along with mission, you want to introduce core values, okay? So core values is how you, as the owner, go about accomplishing that mission, how you as a team will go about accomplishing that mission, okay? So this is also called commander's intent. And then the way that you will go about accomplishing that commander's intent is exactly how you can create a team of people that would make the exact same decision every single time if you were doing it yourself. So as an example, our core tenets might be, adapt or die, okay? So adaptation to changing to the constantly changing fitness industry, where sometimes you have to go online because there's a COVID lockdown, or sometimes you have to change from one offer, let's say a 6-week challenge that is no longer working, into a different offer. Is your team adaptable? Are they willing to be adaptable? Can they adapt to change? Okay, so that is a core tenet, because you don't want to have a team that is really scared of change or fearful of change, because there's going to be a lot of change in this industry, right? So you want to always preach that upon them, right? Or another core tenet we have is every single mission is important. Every single one is as important as the next. What does that mean in the context of the gym industry? Every single client is just as important as the next. It doesn't matter if they have 100 pounds to lose or 15 pounds to lose. Everybody's transformation is important. It doesn't matter if they're paying your top tier level or your low tier, right? Because people are just trying to become better versions. Now, if that's not important to you as a coach, you don't share our core values, right? If you come here and your core values are misaligned, the most important thing to you is money, making money, okay? There's a lot of jobs where that needs to be a core tenet, okay? But not at my gym. At my gym, a core tenet shouldn't be, profit first, or once the client pays, then I'll do whatever I can to help them, right? Our gym is different than that, right? And so I'm not, and it could be different from one gym owner to the next, right? Your core tenets are true to you. But here's the thing. Once you identify your mission statement and your core tenets, which should be about 5, I like to have about 5 to 10 core tenets. And these are things that dictate how you go about accomplishing that mission, right? So we talked about my mission statement, which is creating an impact in my community through, fitness, nutrition, mindset, all of that. So that is the mission that we want to accomplish. And then I have 5 or 6 different ways that we go about accomplishing that mission. If your team really understands that, then they will make the same decision as you, as an owner, would 9 times out of 10. Now we're really being able to create what I call, it's also in a book called Extreme Ownership, Decentralized Command, right? And what does that mean? It means that they can make real-time decisions on the gym floor, in a sales meeting, behind the front desk, and they'll make the same decision that you made or would make because they know exactly what the goal is and they know exactly how you would go about accomplishing that goal as the owner, right? So if they really clearly understand those things, which you're going to repeat in team meetings or whatever it may be, if they really understand those things, then they're almost always going to make the same decision as you would as an owner. And that's how you can take the first step away from doing everything yourself, because you can be confident that they're going to do the right thing. Okay, so that's the first thing that I wanted to talk about, is rolling that principle out to your existing staff. So how could you do that? Well, we printed off a big poster that had our mission statement right on the top and then our core tenets right below it. Maybe I'll drop a picture of that in the group so you have an idea. And on our next team meeting, so if you don't normally do team meetings, I would schedule one and say, hey guys, I wanted to have a team meeting just because it's a new year and I wanted to set us off with a new objective and a new fun, fresh start. Let's have a team meeting. I'm going to be dropping something that I think is going to be amazing, and I think you guys will totally be aligned with it, right? And you want to roll out your mission statement and your core tenets to your team and read through them. Read through your mission statement, read through your core tenets, and call them out and say, hey, does everybody agree with these? Does everybody think that this is something that our gym stands for, right? That makes us unique. Right? And that's the first step, is rolling out your mission statement and your core tenets to your team, right? In FitBiz, we give you a lot of examples of what those could be and how they make an impact, but roll those out to your team, because then you can start holding them to standards. So that brings me to the next part, okay? So now that we have our core tenets, and our core values and our mission statement addressed, now we're going to move into standards. And this is something that might happen at the next team meeting. Okay, so and I would suggest, if you wanted to really change your team quickly and really snap them into action because you need that out of your business right now, I would schedule weekly team meetings, not monthly, weekly team meetings, with each one of them having one of these topics. Okay, so the first one would be the mission statement and core values. That's your first team meeting. All right. And that's where you have your poster and you break it out to them and you say, this is what our meeting's going to centralize around. And I want to make sure everybody's on the same page with what our goal as a company is and how we would go about accomplishing that goal. Next, you would want to release your standards. Okay, so your standards, and you have a meeting saying, hey guys, next we have our normal weekly meeting on Friday or Monday or whatever day. I have something really cool that I think you guys will totally dig. And it's going to help us accomplish our core tenets and our mission statement. It's going to make it easier. And because we just talked about that, I wanted to create this so everybody's on the same page, and I think you'll love it, right? And that's where you would roll out what we call our team standards. Okay, so our standards are a list of things that we hold ourselves accountable to because we are professionals that will help us accomplish our mission. Okay, and so I came up with these as the owner. In fact, I'm going to show you, I have a little bit of a thing I'm going to show you. Okay, so I don't know if you guys can see this. This goes in my break room, okay? But it says violation of the standards. So you don't have to say violation. If I could redo this, I would say team standards, okay? But you can see here where it says, hey, listed below are some examples that violate Body by Design team standards and will lead to disciplinary action. When I first created this, this was more of a stick approach. If I had to redo it, which I totally can, I would use more of a carrot approach where it's like, hey, if you uphold this professionalism, you can earn a bonus or whatever it may be. But you take a look at some of these and it's like failing to be at the facility 10 minutes prior to the first session. So these are essentially your rules, right? But you want to roll these out so that it aligns them it gives them tactical, and it gives them actual examples of what your core tenets would look like in action. Okay, so what if one of your core tenets is being prepared, every single day with enthusiasm to give your clients 100%? What does that look like tactically? That looks like being 10 minutes early to your sessions every single time, so it's completely ready, completely set up, and Mrs. Jones walks in and you have a big smiling face ready to greet her by her first name, and she can see that you have everything prepared, and she's like, wow, these guys really go above and beyond specifically for me, when that's just a standard that your team always upholds. Or the next one, failing to wear uniform during a session. I love when my trainers look squared away. I love when they're in uniform, they look great, right? And it looks professional. Well, one of our core tenets is always be a professional. Always. Now, guys, that's because of me. I have a military background. I always want to be professional in almost all mediums in my life. And so it's natural for me to want that of my staff. That might not be you, right? That might not be you, but it is for me, which is why it's a core tenet. And this is an actionable item of what it looks like executing that core tenet. Being professional, right? Or playing profanity on the Body by Design sound system. We cannot do that. Why? Because our 45 to 55-year-old woman avatar does not want to listen to gangster rap that has a ton of profanity in it. Do I like listening to that when I work out? Absolutely. It fires me up and I just want to get after it. But I am not your standard 45-year-old woman, which is who pays our bills. It's who we cater to. It's who we are trying to help. That is not going to motivate her. It's going to make her feel awkward and like weird, right? They don't listen to that ever, right? So you can't do that. And maybe you can still have your own style of music. Like maybe you can put on like Pandora Radio and it's Lil Wayne, right? And you can turn off the profanity filter. Well, that's acceptable. That's okay, right? And that's a way to still have your own style within our team standards, okay? But you shouldn't come in here with your own playlist that has a lot of crazy stuff on it. Or, scheduling or rescheduling a client without notifying management first. So these are just examples, right? And why would we have that one on there? Because, as an example, you schedule 4 sessions on a Friday night, okay? And this is how, I don't know if you guys have trainers that schedule the same way we do, but what I do is I would sell somebody a membership and say, okay, Eric, this is Mrs. Jones. She's gonna be training with you 3 times a week. These are her goals. And then after that, Eric just schedules his own clients and Mrs. Jones would be 3 times a week. He needs to make sure she gets in 3 times a week. That is his job, right? I have taken that process and assigned it to him. I've taken that system, assigned it to him. So now Eric has to conduct that. Well, I don't schedule all of her sessions for her. That's Eric's job, right? And for me to have my freedom, I can't be doing other people's job. So now Eric is responsible for training Mrs. Jones 3 times a week. Well, let's say he has 10 clients, right? And he had 4 sessions booked on a Friday night and 3 of them canceled, right? So he just has that one left. He is not able to cancel or reschedule that client under any circumstances because it is not her fault that other people canceled or rescheduled. She has already maybe made arrangements. Maybe she's dropping the kids off somewhere. Maybe she took off of work. You don't know the circumstances. And that's the point. She's just like, yeah, I think I can make that work. Okay, see you then. And she might have to do a lot of behind the scenes stuff to make it work, but it's very important to her because changing her life is her #1 priority. Who is Eric to ruin that experience for her, right? Just because it inconveniences him. Absolutely not. Right? So I'm sorry that you still have to come in for that 1 session, which you're getting paid for, by the way, because your other 3 canceled. But that's the expectations. That's the standards that Body by Design holds ourselves to as professionals. Does it suck? Yes. Does it happen all the time? Absolutely not. Right? So suck it up and get after it and train Mrs. Jones and don't be upset about it. Just have a ton of fun, but absolutely don't cancel her or absolutely don't reschedule her because that is not fitting our core tenets, our core values. We just don't do that here. Right? So then you have these lists of your standards that you go through with them on that next meeting, right? And it'll completely make sense because they're like, yes, we just talked about mission statement. We just talked about core values. These standards are going to really help us execute these core values, which will lead up to us accomplishing the mission together as a team. Okay. So that is what I would do on your second weekly meeting to start converting. This is a process to convert your existing team members over to your dream team if they're not already that. Then the next week, you're like, hey, because we talked about the team standards, I created something that will help us keep track of those, right? I love tracking things. I created something that will hold us accountable to those, right? And because we're already tracking some things, I added a couple of more things that's going to help us track these other areas in our business that will help us accomplish our mission, right? Are you guys excited? I want to show you on next week's meeting, and we're going to roll it out. And this would be week 3. Okay, so now we're going to roll out the thing that is going to help track these standards that we just talked about the prior week. So that would look like, this is an example, little show and tell. Okay, this is our team scoreboard. Okay, our monthly scoreboard. So as an example, we have our team here. We have their clients that they have. We have a couple more things that are important to our business, like sales, but then right here, team standards, and everybody starts off with 100 out of 100. And all you can do is go down from there if you violate our standards. And nobody wants to be at the end of the month with 50 out of 100. It makes them look like shit. It makes them look like they're not trying or they're not a good employee, right? And so at the end, it gives them an overall percentage, 0 to 100%. That's the average of these, in our case, 5 different categories. Well, guess what? If they get over 100%, they get a bonus, right? Because they went above and beyond and they're executing and they're doing amazing, okay? And we want to reward them for going above and beyond. So that is how the team standards roll into all of this, right? Because I don't want to have an employee who is great at sales, but does whatever he wants, whenever he wants, and doesn't care about anything else. And then I reward him because of that? Absolutely not. Because if you get a 0 out of 100 for standards because you come in late, you're eating burritos as you're training people, you're on your cell phone, absolutely not. None of that. Each one of those will reduce your standards lower and lower and lower each month until it's impossible for you to earn a bonus. Even if you sold 200% of your sales goal, it doesn't matter. I need a well-rounded team that sets the example for everyone else, because you don't know how much of an impact that's going to have on your business. What if Mrs. Jones is watching one of your other trainers or watching you as a trainer coach and you're on your cell phone, right? We don't allow cell phones on our floor. Not even if they're using them as a stopwatch. Buy a $5 stopwatch, because everybody else that's on looking, they don't know if you're on a texting app, if you're on Facebook, or you're using a stopwatch. And you could easily just be using your phone stopwatch, but nobody else knows that, right? And so the perception that it creates is worse than the ability of you using the stopwatch itself. You know, the perception you can't get back. You're not going to go around to the other 15 people in the gym and say, hey, just wanted to let you know, I'm using a stopwatch, not texting over here. Hey guys, not on Facebook over here. It's a stopwatch. You can't have those conversations, right? So everybody's perception is like, hey, that guy's kind of, I mean, she's doing reps, but he's kind of on Facebook. It's weird. I'm probably not going to refer anybody to train with them, because I don't want them to have that same weird feeling that I'm having right now. Like, is this guy even paying attention? Right. So that's just one of our standards. Okay. And so you want to make sure that you take some time and look at every single thing that's important to you. Now, that might not be important to you at all as a business owner. That's why it's your standards and your values and your mission statement. And it's different than mine. You might be like, that Joey dude's crazy. He's too strict. Well, guess what? People like to be led, and people like to have rules to follow by, right? And it's going to make you look really good and strong as a leader. Okay, so that's why I have those set up. In FitBiz, we go through all of those and we give you a sample handbook that you would roll out to your team, so they have those as well. So that is the next meeting I would have, is introducing that scoreboard system to them where you're tracking things like their clients and sessions and sales. Sales are huge, right? Their standards. And then I always throw something in there. I call it a trainer task. And that's one thing that I need them to do this month that I cannot do myself as the owner. And maybe that's get a testimonial from their clients. Maybe that is get a referral from one of their clients. I can't go up to your client and say, hey, Mrs. Jones, hey, I'm Joey, the owner. I know you've been training with so-and-so for a long time, but can you please let me know if you have any friends or family or neighbors that would like the same transformation that you've been having, right? That's a weird conversation, but the coach can easily have that, right? So that's their task. Hey, bring me in, 3 referrals that I can at least have a conversation with or sit down with. Nowadays, my trainers, they do it all themselves. They have the conversation, they sell them, they get them going. But that's something that they can do that I can't do. So I put that on my trainer board as well. And this thing is updated, not this exact one. This is a small version. I have a big version in our break room, and it's updated on a daily basis. So they can see their stats going up. They can see their standards, maintaining that 100%. And now you really have a team that is competitive. Trainers are competitive, coaches are competitive, and they want to show up, and they can see their name listed with the other 4 or 5, however many coaches you have, and they want to be top dog, right? They want to be top dog for that month, and they are now trying to hit these metrics, these goals that, guess what, are completely aligned with the business's goals. And if they hit 100%, what impact do you think that has on your business? A very good impact, okay? Because if my coaches each individually hit 100%, I know what I set my goals at. That's going to be fantastic for my gym by the end of the month. If they hit their sales goals, if they hit their standards, if they hit their referral goals, like their trainer tasks, if they hit their product sales goals, if they do these things and they get 100%, first of all, I'm absolutely going to give them a bonus because they're crushing it, and it is well worth it. But secondly, they are going to do things for my business that I can't do myself. There's not 10 of me. So I am going to reward them. I'm going to shout them out. I'm going to do things that are above and beyond, just like they went for me. As an example, I have life-size cutouts of every single one of my employees, and I will give the person with the highest percentage employee of the month for the next month, and they get to stand out in the middle of our gym or our lobby, however it's set up. And we put a post on Facebook. Members take pictures with them as employee of the month. In fact, I'll show you. You see these life-size cutouts? I put them in my office. These are just 3 of my coaches, but I have little crowns that go on top of them, and it'll say employee of the month, right? And they love that. And they sit down, and our members will take pictures with them saying, hey, I was just, hanging out with Danny at the gym, and it's just a cutout, right? Or whatever it may be. And it's a thrill. And they have that whole month to themselves because they overperformed. They did great. And those goals that they hit are really helping my business. So, then I will say, you want to make sure once all of these have been established, your core values, your mission statement, your standards, and your scoreboard, once you have this set up so you can actually track how well they're doing, then you want to start leading them. So this is how we are going to transition from building your team, which, keep in mind, guys, what I just talked about was making sure that your team members that you currently have agree with everything that we just rolled out. If you have some strong opposition for your standards, your mission statement, tracking things, holding them accountable, that's when you as an owner need to have some tough conversations, because you will never have the team that you want if someone does not agree to following your mission statement or your core values, right? If they don't agree with you wholeheartedly on the inside, they are not a good fit. Right. And it's okay. You might have hired them before you did these things and didn't know why they just weren't. If it felt like you guys were always butting heads, if it felt like it was always confrontational or a weird conversation, it is because they do not share your values, and you maybe never had words to put to it. But I just gave you the words. They do not share your same core values. If you are constantly at each other, and I've had plenty of employees in the past, they do not. You're never going to see eye to eye because you're different people. You're too different. And it's too difficult to build a team around people that are too different than you, right? And don't share your values or don't care about your mission statement, right? That's when you need to have some tough conversations. right? And I have been there before, and it's not easy, but that is your job as the business owner, right? It is what you sign up for when you want to become an entrepreneur and hire people. Because when you hire people, you have to be okay with firing them as well. Okay. And so whenever I've had to let go of anybody, right, it was a mismatch between between the employee that I needed and the employee that I had. And usually one of three reasons. Okay, usually always broke down to number one, a lack of communication or understanding of my expectations. All right. So they just simply, no matter how many times I told them, they just did not understand what I needed them to do or how I wanted them to do it. Right. And it could have been my fault as the leader. I could not have articulated it correctly. That could have been my fault. Or they are just not a good core value fit, and they're never going to understand how I need them to give a shit about my clients because they just are not that type of person, and they don't understand why caring about somebody's goals is more important than their ability to help them reach them. Right. And that's important for me. Number two is they could be simply lacking the skill set. Right. They are not a core value fit. They lack these skill sets to do the job that I'm asking them to do. Right. And that's not going to work for me. So even if you do understand what I want you to do, if you cannot do it because you do not have if my sales guy just lacks the skills to have a real conversation and build rapport with somebody because you care about them and you truly want to align them with the best program that is going to fit their goals, right? If you cannot do that, even though you clearly understand that's what I need you to do, then you are not a good fit for that position. And I need to have a tough conversation with you. And I'm sorry, and it might have been my fault. I might have hired the wrong person, or that person could have led on in the interview that they have had this conversation a million times, right? And you as the owner who is always willing to give somebody benefit of the doubt said, okay, I'm excited, let's do it. And they just never did have that skill. You need to have that tough conversation. 9 times out of 10, it results in you letting them go. The final thing is they're just not motivated. So number 3, they're not motivated. They do understand what you want them to do, and they do have the skill sets. They're just simply not motivated to do it, right? They don't care, right? And maybe their mind is somewhere else. Maybe they want to become an actor. Maybe they want to be a musician, maybe whatever it may be, but their mind is not on their job. Their mind is not on helping people. They're not motivated. They're not fired up to get in, and you can't do anything about that. Right? You can try your hardest as a leader, but you need to hire people that are intrinsically motivated. They're motivated just by being them, and they don't need this constant source of external motivation all the time to get them to come in and do a good job, right? So those are the 3 things that if there's a mismatch with that and they don't share those values with me, 9 times out of 10, I have to let them go and replace them with somebody that does share my core values, okay? So existing staff, if you're having an issue with your existing staff, check out one of those 3 things. See if it's one of those 3 things. Now, for hiring new staff, you want to look to make sure it is a core value match, right? You want to make sure it is a perfect core value match, and you hire based on core values. You can teach them everything else. You can teach them everything about your job. In FitBiz, we give you everything you need to do to train your staff, from the new hiring ads to the videos that train them to the onboarding process, like how long they shadow you versus how long you shadow them, all of that stuff. That is the how, but what you need to do is make sure you hire somebody with the core value match that you have as a business. So in the past, you could have hired people for different reasons. Maybe in the past you hired them because they had all the skills already, and they knew they had all the certifications and they had all the education, and that's why you hired people in the past, and maybe they just did not work out with you and you never knew why. Well, it's a core value mismatch. That's why. And you'll never have your dream team with people like that. Okay. So that is what you want to do to either convert your existing staff, is either they get it right away and they are core value fits, or they don't and they're not core value fits, and you need to have tough conversations. And if you have to let them go, when you rehire or when you begin building your new team, you hire based on core values. Okay. So hopefully you guys got that. Now we can go into the next part, which is assigning this amazing team that shares your core values to the right processes. Okay. So last week we talked about processes. Now we have great processes and we have a great team. We need to match them up correctly, right? Match them correctly. So my sales guy is not should not be matched up as a coach, right? He should not be coaching classes. This guy is really great at what he does, but he's not great at coaching. So I don't want to have it mixed matched. Just like if you have a coach that is looking for more hours and you're considering giving them administrative work, right person, wrong process, right? Because coaches typically are not good at sitting behind a computer, keeping things ultra organized, making sure that, Mrs. Jones's billing is correct. Like coaches usually want to get out on the floor and just tear it up and get after it and be high energy and motivated, right? So the right person, wrong process, and it's unfortunate if you put somebody in the wrong process because they're not going to succeed. They're not going to excel at it. And you're going to think that they're no longer the right person when they are. You just have them managing the wrong system. So that's when you want to start taking a look at your people and your processes. Everybody on your team's a good core value fit and they understand the mission, and that your processes are great. Make sure you have them aligned, guys. So when I hire people for administrative roles, I find the best person for the admin role, right? I find people that are organized. I don't care if they know anything about fitness, right? It's not about that. It's about finding the best person for that role. Sales, right? I don't care if they know a lot about exactly what we do. I teach them that. They just need to care about people. They just need to be okay with having conversations directly and overcoming objections. They need to be okay with all that. I can teach them the rest. Right person, right process. Okay. So that I wanted to make sure I go over that. And then the final piece of this that I'll talk about is once you have the right people aligned with the right processes, that's when you need to become the leader, the real leader, because at this point in time, they are going to be handling all of the day-to-day operations, right? Because you have then given the processes or systems or responsibilities, all synonyms, right? The same thing to the right people. But how do you continually lead them to help them reach those goals? Well, you pass on your knowledge, your experience, your education, your life lessons. You pass that all on to them. You have been doing this for years, right? Is there any way that you can level them up? And that is now your job, to level up each employee, right? So if you have a new morning routine that has been phenomenal for you and it keeps your stress down and your energy high, when you have one-on-one meetings with your staff members, which I recommend you do on a weekly basis, you share that with them. You see how their life is going. You ask them about things. You recommend books to them. You do all of these things to make them the best version of themselves as possible. So they show up every day ready to get after it. And when it comes time for you to promote people to leaders, you teach them how to be a good leader because you are a leader, right? So teach them how to be good leaders. The best leaders develop and create other leaders. Okay. So it's things like let's say you read a new book, you read something new, share it with them. Don't hold that to yourself. Okay. Share it with them and share how it applies to their job and how they can use it to be even better at their job. And then teach them how to teach other people. As an example, I have a lead trainer, okay, at my gym, and he is in charge of the rest of the trainers. A big part of my job is making sure he clearly understands how everything is going, make sure his head's in the right space, make sure that he understands what we need. Every time I have an opportunity to share something with him, to train him, to role play on whatever it may be, to refer a new book or a podcast or something, I always do that because I want him leveling up. I want to level him up as a person because guess what? He is then going to do the same thing to the 10 coaches that he runs, right? And that's going to be your job as the entrepreneur because it takes me 1 hour to have that conversation with him, and it immediately becomes multiplied times 10. Now he has our meetings with his people, right? So my 1 hour is multiplied by 10. And what I taught to him, he's teaching to them. So I am leveraging my time. So and I do that with each one of my leaders at the business. So that's how I can spend 4 hours working on my gym each week, and it gets multiplied by 10. 40 hours, right? The 40 hours that I would normally have been doing myself, because instead of teaching it to somebody else, I was just coming in and doing it, right? Instead of doing that, I am leveraging my time, and I take my 4 hours and I give it to the 10 people by teaching them, leveling them up, making sure they're good. And the same 40 hours gets done across many hands. And I have my 36 hours remaining. So that's exactly what I do each week as the leader. Is I have these meetings, I hold them accountable, I coach them, I teach them, I give them assignments, I follow up, I do these things as the leader, always from a place of incentivizing and encouraging them and wanting the best out of them. Not like a do this or your job's on the line. Absolutely not. You'll never get the most out of people when you do that, okay? And that's a hard lesson I learned, but I always lead from the front, and I never ask them to do something I haven't done myself, okay? And so when you have this dialed in and you truly become that leader, your job then is to make sure all of your team members have everything they need to become successful. And it's your job to always make sure they have all of that. So that is where I wanted to end today's live training on. I know it's a little bit more long-winded, but we went through the most important things when it comes to building that dream team and becoming the leader that you need to be. I'm going to check for any questions. No questions. But if you guys do, drop them in the video. Obviously, if you guys want that done for you, leadership and team training, so you can, guys, this is one of the you get your team squared away, you will absolutely have the biggest impact on your business in the shortest amount of time. If you want that, just drop a me below this video, and I will have our team hook you up. But FitBiz does all of this stuff for you guys, and we give you everything that I just showed you. We give that to you so you have that, and you can execute below. So if you want that, just hit me. Otherwise, let me know that you watch this by typing in replay or live, because I'll keep on making these amazing videos. Hopefully you guys can take this, use this, apply it, and it helps your business. That's why we have this group. So hopefully you guys like this one. I am going to see you next week at 2:00 p.m. on Monday, and we will be covering the next topic. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I will see you then. Later.